One of the hardest parts about moving to New Zealand is, no doubt about it, leaving your parents behind on the other side of the world. But what about if you didn't have to? What if there was an option to bring your parents over to New Zealand?
Person has the funds and their child is a citizen or a resident, they can actually get residency quite quickly through this category.
In this week's episode, we're going to talk with Charlotte from NZ Shores Immigration about the parent retirement visa and open up some options that might mean you can have your parents with you in New Zealand.
NZ Ahead, coming to you from Taranaki, New Zealand.
Charlotte, welcome back to the NZ Ahead podcast. We are thrilled to have you with us once again.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be back as always.
You are our favourite immigration advisor from NZ Shores, and today we're going to be talking about the parent retirement category visa. So we just want to jump straight into it. What is it, first of all, because we don't know that?
So the parent retirement category visa is a residency visa, which if your child is a New Zealand citizen or resident, you can apply for residency much faster than some of our what we call sponsored categories. So it is an investment-based visa, so it does require you to invest money into New Zealand to be able to apply, but it does process quite quickly. Your child doesn't have to have been in the country for any certain period of time, so if a person has the funds and their child is a citizen or a resident, they can actually get residency quite quickly through this category.
Okay, costs.
Yeah.
You said money. That's the only important part, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is really. So costs and investment, yes, this is a visa where you do have to have a reasonable amount of funds to be able to apply. So the main criteria that you're looking at is you must have effectively 1.5 million New Zealand dollars in total to be able to apply. $1 million of that must be invested into New Zealand. So $1 million must be invested into quite safe investments, and the government does have a list of what they deem a safe investment, but typically what a lot of our clients will go for is government bonds or shares. You can't invest in property, so I will just address that right now because that is always the one question we get asked is, can I just purchase a home for $1 million and there's my investment? No. If you want to invest in property, it has to be a residential property development. So we do look at typically encouraging people to go towards those bonds or shares because they're safe. Yes, they're not going to make you a huge return, but they are a safe investment and they will meet the criteria for Immigration New Zealand. You need 500,000 in what we call settlement funds. So settlement funds can be used for anything. They don't actually have to be moved to New Zealand. You just actually have to show you have the money. So if you wanted to, that money could remain in an offshore bank account. And much like the name suggests, settlement funds, they're there to help you do things like move into the country, purchase a property if you want to, or do as you please. So immigration aren't too concerned about what you do with that 500,000. The third criteria you have to meet is you must have a guaranteed annual income of $60,000 per year. So if you're applying as a single applicant, you must be able to demonstrate that $60,000 by yourself. If you're applying as a couple, so a husband and wife or whatever your situation may be, then you can combine that. So for example, one person could be earning $40,000 per year and the other person could be earning $20,000 per year, and immigration will accept the combined total. When we talk about guaranteed income, you can't use employment because once you move, obviously your employment ceases to be guaranteed. So we look at things like pensions are often a really easy one, return on investment. If you've got rental properties, perhaps that you've got money coming in through those. So it's things that the immigration know that once you move into the country, that money is going to continue to come in. So those are our three main criteria that we're looking at.
So going back to number one, and you said initially you need 1.5 million, but $1 million needs to be invested into
Correct.
bonds. For how long?
So you need to invest the money into New Zealand for a total of 4 years in order to be able to obtain permanent residence. So the way it works is once you apply for your residency visa and you show that you've got all this money available to you, then immigration give us what's called an approval in principle. And that approval in principle say, yes, we will approve your application subject to you investing your money. And it's at that point that you would then go ahead, and generally most people at this point don't have have it already invested. So at this stage, this is when people would start to invest their money, and Immigration New Zealand expect you to retain that investment for 4 years. So you get your resident visa, which allows you to come and go, and that resident visa will be valid for that 4-year period. But then you must retain that investment for 4 years to actually then move on to permanent residency.
All right. So to be a parent visa for this one, you've got to be a parent of a citizen or a resident, permanent resident?
Correct, yeah. Resident or permanent resident, immigration doesn't differentiate under this particular category. So you could have a child who's got their resident visa yesterday by migrating under one of the various categories, and then you could literally go ahead and submit yours the next day, which we have done in some cases.
So just to be clear, this visa is for the parents of people so me and Brian emigrated over to New Zealand. Now Brian's dad wants to join us. He wants to retire in New Zealand. This visa is for him, is it?
Correct.
Okay. So do we need to be, I'm sorry if you've said this already, but do we need to be citizens? What visa do we need to hold in order for our parents to be able to apply for that parent retirement visa?
So it can be either a residency visa, which is the visa that gets granted to most people outright when they've applied for residency in New Zealand, or it could be permanent residence. So you've gone from your resident visa to your permanent resident visa, or you could be a citizen. So the criteria is quite flexible. Like I said, you could have your child come into the country and they obtain residence, like let's say under our straight to residence category, which is really quick. And then the minute that they've got the seal of approval from immigration to say they have their residence approved, then you could go and submit your residence application virtually the next day if you wanted to. So there's no waiting period. Your child doesn't have to be a citizen or a permanent resident or a resident for any particular period of time, which is awesome.
Right,
so it's a lot quicker than a lot of our other parent categories.
Yeah, but you couldn't just be someone who's coming over here on a 2-year work visa and then saying, "Oh, and I want my parents to come over." They wouldn't. That wouldn't pass.
No, so it is a family reunification visa effectively. So it is a visa for people it's a visa for the parents of people who have come and settled and obtained residency here.
Yeah.
Okay, and so going back to income, where you're talking about you must be on 60,000 between the two of you, or so how'd you go about that? If your job, oh no, it wasn't. It was more like investments. I'm just thinking if you do have a job that's remote, is that allowed for or not?
The retiring.
Unfortunately not.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
So it's not a retirement visa in the sense that you have to be retired to apply, but it does have to be guaranteed income. So employment is a really hard thing to say, my income is guaranteed, because obviously your income might be guaranteed if you're living in the UK, for example, but the minute you then move to New Zealand, well, you're going to lose that income. So you can't then prove that once you're here, it's going to continue. And that's what Immigration New Zealand are effectively looking for. They want to make sure that you can actually support yourself while other than the fact you've got $1 million invested, they want to make sure you've got some money coming in to help sustain you while you are living here. So pensions are a really easy one. A lot of our particularly American and British clients have really good private pensions that quite easily meet that threshold, but it could be state pensions, it could be you've already got money invested offshore and that's generating an income. It could be if you own a business. So if you do own a business, Immigration New Zealand will deem that as acceptable income for whatever reason, because most people wind their businesses up before they move, but hey, let's not question policy. So you could use that, or rental properties are another one. So if you've got a rental property and that's generating an income, so it's just the employment one is a little bit tricky.
All right. And on that point of before you come, how long do you? So I mean, some parents would want to come on that visa, but then go back home and then come back. So how long do you have to stay?
there's no minimum requirement of how long you actually have to be in the country. It's just that you have to retain your investment. So you could literally get your resident visa, activate it, have your money invested for the 4-year period, and you'll still be able to get permanent residence even if you weren't in the country for a certain amount of time. So it's quite flexible. For lack of a better term, to some degree, you are buying a residency visa because you are investing money in New Zealand. So immigration want that. The government wants that. They want people bringing their money to the country because it's good for New Zealand. So they do make it fairly flexible to then actually get your permanent residence at the end of that.
You are here because you love New Zealand.
You might be moving to New Zealand.
Living in New Zealand,
Or you might just spend your days dreaming of visiting this gorgeous country.
because we love New Zealand as much as you do, we have compiled a short and very unique
5-day video series showcasing life in New Zealand, what it's really like. These videos are real, they are exclusive, and best of all, they're absolutely free. So if you would like to view New Zealand from the inside out and find out what life is really like down here, sign up now, and every day for 5 days we will send you a personal 3-minute video showcasing some brilliant aspect of life in New Zealand. You are gonna love it. Go to
nzahead.com/free.
We can't wait to share those videos with you. Okay, let's get back on with the show. So, talking about other requirements that you need for this. So say that I've got all this money, my kids have emigrated over to New Zealand, I've got loads of money, so that's not a problem, but I don't speak English, or I've got health problems that I need to keep going to the doctors all the time. Would I still be allowed in, or do I need, what are the requirements there?
So you still have to have an acceptable standard of health because you are being granted a residency visa, which means you then have access to our free healthcare system in New Zealand. So you do still have to have an acceptable standard of health. They don't expect you to be 80 and having the health of a 30-year-old because that's obviously just not plausible, but they do want to make sure that you aren't likely to be of great burden to the country. So they do look to see if there's any pre-existing health concerns, which could mean that there is certainty that that person is going to access healthcare. I mean, obviously, once you start getting older, it's more likely that you're going to start accessing healthcare regardless, but they look for pre-existing conditions. And we can typically look at a person and say, yes, that's going to be a problem, or no, it's not. You do have to be of good character. So you can't be a serial killer and obtain residence in New Zealand. It's just not going to work. Minor convictions and things are fine. Character waivers may be needed, but as long as you've been generally a good person in your life, then you're going to be okay. English language isn't something that they look for evidence of. Again, you're investing money in New Zealand, so they're not too concerned about the English language level. But everything else aside, you do have to be of good health and good character.
That's interesting about the English language, isn't it? Because so many people in the community talk about this, like they have to take English language tests and, prove that they can speak fluent English. So yeah, it's I suppose you just sit them in the corner with all their millions and say, look, you don't need to talk to us, just give us your money.
Or buy you a translation tool with all the interest you make off your money.
Basically, that's pretty much how it works. I feel for all my clients who have to go through that English language test because I actually sometimes wonder whether I would pass, to be honest.
Well, as a Kiwi, no, that's definitely.
No, exactly.
I
probably talk too fast. My grammar's probably terrible. Yeah, I probably wouldn't pass.
Yeah, I know when we were back in 2009 when we were filling out our immigration papers, and and that's what it says when you're emigrating to New Zealand. You need to prove that you can speak English, and you're like, how do I do that?
Well,
Yeah,
I know it's just, but I just born and raised and educated in the UK, and that was acceptable. Yeah.
So, do you get many of these visas? Do you get many people applying for these?
we do. I mean, it's definitely not the biggest category we deal with by any means, but I do generally have quite a steady stream of these applications. So there's generally always about 2 or 3 at play at once, so it is quite common. The thing I probably should have mentioned is kind of, I guess, source of funds and where that money can come from. So I think maybe if you're happy, we'll just quickly talk about that, because I guess the joys of being an older person and having worked your whole life and possibly bought property is we get a lot of older people who have their money tied up in the value of their homes. So they will use that, you might have purchased your house for $100,000 20 years ago, and now suddenly it's worth, £500,000-600,000, which then with the exchange rate works out really well. So it isn't actually necessarily that you have to have $1 million cash in the bank. You just have to be able to prove you have an asset. Again, whether that's investments or property. Property is a really easy one to use to then pull that money out. So you can sell your property, liquidate that as an asset, and then move that money to New Zealand. So because we can use property as evidence of having that money available to you, it becomes a lot easier than just having to have $1 million in the bank. And again, with exchange rates, particularly between the UK and the US, it's not actually that hard to achieve, really. I mean, it is. $1 million still isn't a small amount of money, right? But it becomes a lot easier when you've got a property and a good exchange rate to satisfy that requirement.
So I've got 2 questions, Charlotte. This is such an interesting topic as well, isn't it?
I know.
Because so many, because a lot of people in the community, the biggest thing is leaving your family, isn't it? And I know not everyone's got parents who have got this.
That's why they do it.
Who can put their hands on this amount of money. But my first question is, so say if Brian's dad has a property in the UK that's worth £1 million, would he go to Immigration New Zealand and say, my property's worth £1 million, so therefore can I have a visa? Or would he have had to sold that property first to say, and look, I've sold my property, here's my money in the bank, can I have a visa?
Either way, it can happen either way. So if you don't have to necessarily have sold that property to actually apply for the visa. So if you have a property that is, for example, worth £1 million, we get a registered valuation. So you can't use a real estate agent, because we all know what real estate agents can be like. They'll say, oh yeah, I'll sell your house for £2 million, but actually it's worth $1 million. So we get a registered valuer to come in and do a valuation of that property to say, we are skilled and we are at doing this, and here is our licenses to say we can, here is our report. So we can provide that report with the initial visa application that says this is the value of your home. That's where immigration will assess it, and they will come back and they will say, we approve your application in principle subject to your funds being invested. So they give you a 12-month period on that approval in principle. So if you have a house to sell, you've got 12 months to do it and then actually move that money into New Zealand. And once you've done that, and we provide evidence to immigration of, here's evidence I've sold my house, here is evidence of my money going through a legitimate banking system, here is evidence of my money being invested, here's my investment report. At that point, Immigration New Zealand would then actually grant that resident visa to you. So you've got a period of time. They don't expect you to have already sold your home, because that may be your only home, right? And people don't want to necessarily sell their property before they have to. So they will take value, which is good.
My second question was, how long does all this take? Like, when they apply, what is the typical time that you see from applying to getting the visa? What is the typical time?
They are prioritising these quite heavily at the moment. So when we're recording this, it's March 2026. So as of at the moment, we're typically seeing these applications processed within about 3 to 6 months. So they are fairly quick, which is good. We've gone from a space where probably 2 years ago they took about 2 years to process, and now it's like immigration's woken up and they've realised how important this category is, how important these people are, and they're really trying to prioritise that processing. So it can be quite a quick process. I mean, if you did have liquid cash in the bank, you could have your resident visa within probably about 6 months, which is pretty fast, really.
That's fast, isn't it?
Yeah. And do you know what? I think this is a fantastic idea, because again, going back to keeping people in the country, one of the biggest reasons that people leave, I don't know this for a fact, I'm just talking about personal things, but it's because they want to be reunited with their family. They want their kids to see their grandparents and all that. So I think this is a fantastic visa to keep families together and keep them in New Zealand.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It makes a big difference when you've got family support behind you.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
it
Charlotte,
does, yeah.
last question, unless Bry's got something to ask, but my last question is, so do they obtain permanent, let me just be clear, are they given permanent residency then? They have to invest their money for 4 years and after that they get permanent residency, is that right?
Correct. At the end of that 4-year period, you get permanent residence. So pretty much like every other category that immigration have for residents, you're granted a resident visa initially. So you've sold your house, you've moved your money, you've invested it, you get a resident visa. And the condition of that resident visa is to simply keep your money invested for that 4-year period. As long as you do that, at the end of that 4-year period, you then get permanent residence.
Right. And that can lead to citizenship as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So the threshold for citizenship, goodness, this is probably another video we should do. What is residence versus permanent residence versus citizenship? Yeah. Citizenship you can apply for 5 years after the grant of your initial resident visa. So for these people applying under this category, they would have their resident visa for 4 years, their permanent resident visa for 1 year, and then if they wanted to apply for citizenship, they could. So it would happen fairly quickly for them in the scheme of things. Citizenship obviously has different requirements around like time spent in the country, so you just have to make sure that you are meeting the correct thresholds for that. But permanent residence and citizenship, basically the same thing, you just don't have the passport. So from a legal standpoint, permanent residents are virtually entitled to everything a New Zealand citizen is except the passport. So there's really no difference between the two.
Is there an age limit on this? Have you got to be a certain age to apply for retirement?
No. So because it's this isn't a retirement visa per se, so they don't expect people to necessarily come to New Zealand and retire. So there's no age limit. You could be in your 50s, you could be 80. It doesn't matter. Immigration will accept you at any age. Again, you've got the money, so we want you.
Yeah. And this is going to sound like a really dodgy question, but I've got to ask it because it's in my mind. So what about then if Brian's dad hasn't got any money, but we've got loads of money and we say, okay, Brian's dad, we'll put all our millions into your bank account and then you can apply and just say that that's your money. Is that really illegal or is that something that they would look into or what?
No, funds can be gifted, so but there is criteria and policy around that gifting. So if you wanted to give Brian's dad $1 million to invest, you would actually have to have that $1 million outside of New Zealand. So funds gifted cannot go from New Zealand to the UK, for example, and then come back to New Zealand. You'd have to have, again, whether it was you owned property still in the UK or you had offshore investments that you could then liquidate to gift that money to him.
Got it. Oh well, he's not coming then, Bri. That's it. We'll have to go and visit
there's
him.
No way I'm sending $1 million to him.
Have we missed anything, Charlotte? Is there anything else we should have asked you that's important to know for this parent retirement category visa?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess in its name, it probably sounds a little bit complex, but as long as you've got the money, it's kind of not. So it is actually a relatively straightforward application and category to explain. So as long as you've got the $1.5 million total, as long as you've got a guaranteed annual income of $60,000 per year, as long as you're of good health and character and your child holds either a resident visa or a permanent resident visa or citizenship, it will be granted to you. So if you've got the funds, pretty straightforward.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Last thing, just said on health, good health. What if you popped your clogs 2 years into it?
Doesn't matter. You've got residency. No.
I just mean, what happens to the bond? As in, the million.
Where's our millions gone, Charlotte?
Does it get pulled back out and given to the family, or
it could do, yeah. So I guess if you were a single applicant, it would just be whoever that money was left to in a will, or next of kin. If there is a secondary applicant, then the secondary applicant would still need to meet. So if you've got a couple and the one person died, the secondary applicant, the second partner, would then just need to keep that money invested and meet the same criteria. So it doesn't, and that's the same with any resident visa. Doesn't matter if you're a year in or 2 years in and one person passes away, absolutely fine. Immigration aren't going to penalise you for it. You just have to continue to meet the same criteria that visa was issued under and you'll still get your permanent residence.
Oh, that's good to know.
It is. You
That's a good question because they are typically older people. So
yeah.
At first, I was going to say to you that's a bit morbid, but actually, that's a good. Charlotte,
But it just is because you just think, what actually happens? Like,
Yeah,
but,
it is something
you'd have to write that into your will, wouldn't you, or whatever?
Yeah.
And it does happen, right? So unfortunately, it does happen.
You know, Charlotte, whenever I talk to you about investment visas and things like that, I always come off feeling really wealthy, like I've got the money. I don't know why I feel. It's quite
Me
good,
too.
actually.
Because you throw these numbers around, you're like, oh, that's not much. It's only $1 million.
It's all right, just sell the house, just sell everything you've ever earned in your life and invest into New Zealand.
Basically,
Charlotte, where we will put all the links in the description in the the links below in the description. But what's the best way for people to contact you if they want to get in touch with you about this visa?
Yeah, absolutely. So email me directly is typically the best way. So there are only a limited number of advisors in our team which deal with investment visas. I'm one of them. So best to email charlotte@nzshores.com. And then even if I don't have capacity in my current workload, we have 2 other advisors in the team who can take you on. But I'm happy to be first point of call, and then we can decide who is the best match for the visa you're wanting to apply for.
Fantastic. And just to remind people, if you do not know, Charlotte is part of our NZ Ahead Slack community. She's got her own channel over there. I should say NZ Shores have got their own channel because Fabian is also over there.
Yeah.
So you can speak to her directly over there by joining the NZ Ahead community. So it's a wonderful, wonderful place to be. And yeah, we're just so grateful that you're here to offer all this fantastic advice, Charlotte.
Oh, well, thank you for having us. We love being part of the community and we love helping. And hey, it's what I do. I love seeing people and the end result of them, whether it's reuniting families or making their dreams come true. It's a pretty special job.
It really is.
Yeah,
it really is. Thank you for everything you do. And until next time, we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Talk soon.
Okay.
Yeah, you too. See you now.
Bye.
Bye.
They say age is a number, but what about if you're moving to New Zealand and you want residency and you're over the age of 56? What then?
Been above that age threshold of 56 because we need them, we need their skills. They're going to come and contribute to New Zealand. Technically, yes, anyone could go ahead and apply for an age waiver, but
in this week's episode, we're going to chat with our favourite immigration advisor, Charlotte from NZ Shores, and we're going to talk all about the age waiver, how you can apply to Immigration New Zealand and get a waiver if you are over the age of 56. This is a fantastic episode for anyone in their later years, so sit back and enjoy Charlotte.